All right, Mo, today we have Maine State Police Sergeant Tyler Harrington, which I fucking love because I met Tyler when he was a cadet, recruit, whatever they called him. Fresh, baby face, still has a fucking baby face. I fucking hate it. I hate it, but now he is a sergeant, and I finally got him on the show. What's up, Tyler?
What's going on, guys? Glad to be here. Happy to see you guys.
Yeah, buddy. Well, let's do what we do here. Can you talk a little bit about where you grew up and how you grew up and the kind of like what guided you into law enforcement as a career path?
Yeah, so I grew up born and raised in Maine. My hometown is probably about 30 minutes south of our capital, Augusta. It's a really small town. We have our own high school, about 28 kids in my graduating class. So when I tell you it is rural Maine at its finest, it really is.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, the good thing about that is the small knit community, right? Everyone knows everyone, everyone's parents know each other. They usually have grown up with each other. And ultimately, like that's, a lot of my friends I grew up with, I still talk to today, communicate with today. I think growing up in small town Maine has its benefits as any other state. And I've fortunately been able to remain in the state of Maine and keep those relationships going with those guys and gals. And so my goal to be a Maine State Trooper, I really hit that plateau, if you will, probably like my sophomore year of high school when I didn't really know what I wanted to do. There's a lot of decisions to be made. Obviously, a lot of my friends are joining the military. I considered that for a little bit, but ultimately decided to go the college route. Applied to a bunch of local liberal arts colleges in central Maine. I applied to a couple in southern Maine, but I wanted to stay in state ultimately. And I didn't really know what my major was going to be. So I really went to college with that open mind. Thinking back, I really, when Tyler asked me to jump on this podcast, my path to law enforcement wasn't really one dimensional. It was actually, thinking back, it was not like a whim out on a whim application, but we had a Maine State Trooper come into my college when I was freshman or sophomore. And you see the uniform and you think, could I do that? Is that something that in 5 years, could I be coming into this college wearing that uniform, talking to students? And I mean, he was just one of the most squared away troopers I'd ever seen. So that kind of started my journey into law enforcement. Obviously, our PT standards for the state police are pretty rigorous. I knew I had to train up for that. The college that I went to offered a program that would allow me to spend my last semester of my senior year at the police academy.
What college was this? Sorry, what college was that?
This is Thomas College in Waterville, which is 45 minutes from my hometown.
No, that's awesome. And let me back up a little bit. As far as high school, did you play any sports in high school?
Yep, I played sports. It was a small school, so you really didn't have to be a star athlete to play in those sports. But I played soccer in the fall. We were too small to have footballs. Obviously, Ty and I share the same interest in football, but played basketball in the winter and then baseball in the spring. So we were pretty busy.
Remember, Tyler, you could tell us that you were a star athlete. Nobody would know. I
didn't say nothing. Nobody knows nothing. But I will say that, Tyler, I will say this. Mo is still fascinated by how rural Maine is. Like I love talking to her about it because it's hard to put it in perspective. But like I went to high school in Sarasota. My graduating class, we had 1,000 just seniors. And I try to explain, like you're like, hey, I was a small town, but we had our own high school. There are towns in Maine that don't. They have to like pool resources and several towns will go to one school. That's how rural Maine can be.
Yeah, it's a good point. I didn't even think about that, but yeah, exactly true. We have to, our big schools up here too, pull from 6, 7, 8 different towns, and they're powerhouses in sports because they're from a lot of different towns. But it's like that pride thing for my school because as that was happening around my high school years, remaining our own identity and our own high school is important to our town, and it still is. I mean, we had won numerous conference championships. I know it's a small class in small school, but we're still very proud of those things.
Yeah.
We have banners in the gym with all kinds of state championships. So
as you should.
Yeah.
Damn right. So I am interested in the fact that you said you saw a trooper. Came and talked to you in college or high school.
Yeah, that was in college. We had.
So it worked.
I think so. I still I still think, not to get wishy-washy about faith and religion and stuff, but I
Uh-huh.
do think my position in law enforcement I've been guided in those decisions.
Mhm.
I've been, showed along the way. I'm just a kid from a small town in Maine. Why am I now a sergeant in the state police? And I think looking back and all these people that I've met, all the resources that I've garnered from talking with people, going to calls, like I just can't believe where I'm at today. And I gotta believe there's something, a higher power pushing me, moving me forward in this process. And I'm a firm believer of that.
No, for sure. For sure. Go ahead, Mo.
So when the trooper came, was it for recruiting purposes or just to the class that you happened to be taking? It was something, he was a guest speaker, or what was the rationale for him being there?
Yeah, it was. So we do an annual career fair. If my
Okay.
memory jogs me correctly, I believe it was a career fair in the gymnasium, and everyone had their booths. Obviously, a bunch of different law enforcement agencies were there. I do remember Border Patrol being one of them, which I was very interested in for a long time. Wanted to move across the country and kind of spread my
Yeah.
roots a little bit, but that day it was a game changer for me. I don't know, it was like my decision was kind of made for me. Like this is what you're gonna do, and you want to be a part of that. And the uniform, I mean, I still wear a uniform every day, almost 10 years in, and every morning or every night now I work overnights. I put that uniform on and I still get the same feeling that I did 10 years ago. And now my boy sees me put that on and it comes full circle for me. So that was a big thing for me, that career fair. And I don't even remember. The best part is I don't even remember who that trooper was. We're a
Yeah,
small
fair enough.
agency.
That's funny.
And if that was the next question, I'm sorry I jumped the gun here, but I
No,
don't
you're
even
fine.
remember who that was. I had such that aha moment, and I thought, this is going to be for me, and this is what I want to do. And in the respect that gymnasium showed that trooper, it wasn't. You could tell it was a different mindset, a different set principles that he was operating with, which is cool to see.
It's awesome. The other
No,
thing I was
yeah.
going to ask you is the college. Here we have a college that kind of where we house our academy in, but we also have another college that's almost like a feeder college for the academy. So they'll have, like you stated, where you can spend a semester in the academy and you get college credits for it. Was this similar to what you had the setup at this college?
Yeah, so the school that I chose fortunately did have a criminal justice program that sent
Mhm.
students in their last semester there, and that's the program that I took advantage of. In the beginning, I didn't realize that was even an option.
Right.
And there are certain parameters that you have to meet before you're eligible to go to the academy, obviously, like with the standards and testing and everything else. But so yeah, once you hit your senior year, going into the fall, you have the choice of attending the fall or spring basic law enforcement training program.
Got it.
And that was ultimately, I went in the spring of 2016. So I spent from January to May living at the Maine Criminal Justice Academy.
And that's when we met, Mo. That's when I slid in. That's when I slid in from Florida, and as an old disgruntled deputy with 5, 6 years in, and met the crew. And I don't know if you know all this, Tyler. So I had no idea. I didn't want to go to an academy. I had back and forth with the colonel at the time. I can't remember his name. And I was like, dude, I've already been like a deputy from a large department for almost 6 years. He's like, nope, you want to be a trooper, you got to go do this 9 weeks and you got to go live in this fucking old building in this dorm. And I was like, fine, fuck it, whatever, I'll do it. I will say the uniform is definitely part of it because I enjoyed wearing that uniform. But yeah, so I walk in, there's only 9 recruits and so they had all been part of the basic academy together, if I'm correct. I don't know. And then here I am, I just show up and they're fucking screaming at me, yelling at me. The one, I'll refrain from using names. There was a sergeant, he fucking smacked me in the face and brimmed me. And I was like, well, I was ready to fight. Like I was ready to scrap. But Tyler and the other guys were like, no, that's just how it is. I was like, are you fucking kidding me right now? Like I was about to lose my shit because I was a 30-something-year-old man at the point. And they're like, no, it's okay. This is just how it is. I don't know this part. Did you know what you were getting into? Were you aware like this is how trooper, I don't know what you call it, trooper academy or the trooper portion was going to be from they call it BLEPI, but the basic academy?
So no. And furthermore on that is when I first applied to be a state trooper, I didn't know what the totality of that training looked like. So when I tell you, showing up in January of 2016 at the basic school, in complete shock and awe about what I was witnessing. It was just that, I was 20 or 21 years old. I think I just turned 21. And so you go through the basic school, and you hear the rumors, what's going on. Once you graduate the 18 weeks, you have 10 more weeks of what no one else wants to go through, right? And that's slowly creeping in as you get through that program. But I will say for me, it helped me to not know what I was going to get into, right? So it was the same thing in the Bleppy where I didn't know, what do they do to us? I know we live there. What's the training like? I try not to worry about that. And I was naive to a fault. And I think that's what saved me. It kept my longevity through that 18-week program, and ultimately meeting Ty Martin, and moving into the state police barracks.
I love it.
Yeah. So Mo, just to understand, so the basic academy lives there as well, but the troopers have their own section. It's away from everybody else. They eat in like the basement of the bowels of this facility, and you're just surrounded by your cadre 24 hours a day.
You remember the name of the basement room, Ty?
I don't, bro. I blacked a lot. The hole. There you go. See, yeah, I blacked out a lot because I didn't know shit. I was just like, I've already been through an academy, whatever. This was not like that. I was like, what is going on? And day one, they were testing us on calls, and I think I got every single one wrong because I was like, I didn't even know I was supposed to study this shit. And they're like, what's the trooper's pledge? I'm like, the what? Like, I had no idea. And they're just, who is, like, fucking losing their minds on me. And I'm just like, bro, what is going on? But the thing was, I just was like, I didn't know I had to study for this shit.
You're like, I just came here from another agency and I just want to be a cop.
Yeah, I want to do cop shit.
We have this saying up here. It's if you're dumb, you better be tough. For Ty Martin to come up here from Florida with little to no knowledge about what he was getting himself into, he played that to a T because he was tough. He honestly might have been the toughest, the strongest guy in our academy. And I'll never forget the first interactions with Ty Martin, because the Maine law enforcement community is pretty small, and it's grown. We've done more recruiting from outside of the state, outside of New England, but you hear of this guy from Hillsborough County, Florida, that's coming up here to be a Maine state trooper. Now, I don't know what I'm getting myself into, but I can bet you my paycheck that Tyler Martin from Florida doesn't know what he's getting himself into. So that was just that. I can't recall, Ty, if we had like an orientation leading up to it or whatnot, but
nope, I did not. I don't know if you guys did. I did not. I literally just said, hey, you'll start.
It's kind of all
you start this day.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know how much you remember day one, but that's, oh man.
It was brutal.
Yeah.
It was brutal. And I was exhausted because they were yelling, screaming. And then we were in a classroom and they came in and they were pulling people out because they're like, your registration's expired, or, they searched our cars. Oh yeah. What? Yeah. They ripped our shit to pieces. And then I don't remember. I remember little glimpses of stories, but like, I was like, what? And I'm sleeping on another twin size mattress. And I'm like, it's hot. There's no AC. I'm old. They threw our shit everywhere, and then they're calling us at like 1 a.m. to go do fake call outs, and I'm like, and I don't know if you're reminding me now. I remember it was probably that first week, 2 or 3 days in, because we had to have our BDU stuff like press, clean, like the gig line, all that stuff, and we had like 5 minutes. Like I wasn't ready. Like they were getting us up at like 4:35 in the morning to go do shit, and so I'm trying to get ready. They're like, what? They're screaming, and I'm just like trying to put my. They're like, what is your fucking problem or whatever? I was like, I was in a state of undress. I think I was like still naked while they were screaming at me, and I'm trying to like throw my
the best part, Ty, is every time I see Rennie, I walk up to him and I go, state of undress. The funniest thing I've ever seen in my adult life was when Tyler Martin told academy staff that, what state are you in? And he said, I'm in the state of undress. I'm like, this guy's definitely in over his head right now.
I have no idea what's going on. I have no idea what's going on. That's true. Oh, that's true. I'm trying to remember. So, but the thing is that I like, and Tyler, I mean, jump in, but I'm just you're now reminding me of all these things. The first week was god awful. You know what? Well, let me just finish the point. The first week was awful. The second week was better. It kind of progressively, they stopped treating you awful, and they were trying to more teach you and more camaraderie all the way up until the last week, where we basically just kind of went on calls with them, hung out, and we ended up having a nice, cool blowout. I don't know if I'm supposed to talk about this, but we had a cool blowout type party on a lake, and they cooked and we ate, we swapped stories. We had a really good time. but it progressively got to that. Also, I was not aware of Friday fight night or Friday fights or whatever the fuck they called it. And it was an all day thing, an all day affair. It was actually really good training. I just wasn't ready for it because I didn't know what the fuck I had no idea what was going on. And they start calling people out of class because we're still in a class setting. And then they're like, hey, you're going to go do this, this, and this. And all these guys knew what to expect. I'm just like, okay, yeah, whatever. I'm just like, whatever, like some training bullshit. No, hey, this person's wanted for whatever. Go arrest them. And I'm like, okay, hey, you're under arrest. Fuck you. I was like, all right, bro. I put your hand, like, I'm thinking, hey, we're going to do some DT moves or whatever. No, smacked me right in the face. I was like, oh, we're hitting?
Oh,
And
that's what we're
just,
doing.
it was just a brawl. And they're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like, I was ready to like fists and elbows.
You
Like,
said
no,
that's
no,
what we
no. I
were
was like,
doing.
he hit me. Like, did you know that was coming? The Friday fights?
No. So obviously, like we in the basic school, we have like scenarios that are based around like a fight scenario, and it teaches you, how to deal with a non-compliant subject and what force you're at and what tools to use, etc. That was the big thing about our training was in the state police 10 years ago was the fact that no, we didn't really talk about it like leading up to it because it was the integrity of that program was kept kind of quiet for the sake of the recruits that were coming in behind us.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, I didn't know, I didn't have the answers to the test that Friday we were going to get into this knockdown, drag out scenario of a non-compliant subject. But looking back, it's kind of like what I talked about with that naiveness a little bit, because when I went down, I caught a football to the face because the scenario player had a football in his hand, and I didn't even react in time because, yeah, it was just an interesting scenario. And ultimately, it's good, it's good training. And there's a lot of those principles that Ty and I went through that we still do today in the academy and training our troopers.
That's awesome.
I will say this, Mo, because Mo, you're an instructor. Nobody wore pads. There was no protective gear. There was no red man suit. None of that. Every scenario, every Friday was different. I don't know if it was different for everybody every session or they just changed it every Friday. I don't know that part. But sometimes they'd make you go run like a half mile. Sometimes your gun would be out. Sometimes you had to go search something and somebody would pop out. Sometimes it was a shoot scenario with sim rounds. You knew a sim round scenario was coming because you had to wear a mask. So that's the one caveat. They didn't want to get shot in the eye. But when it was not that and you had no protective gear, you knew you were about to get after it and they were not going to be compliant. And the guys that they had you arresting, these weren't like the smallest guys these were all troopers too. Like these were the SWAT guys, the DT guys, whatever. And for me, and there was another big guy, they brought in the big boys because they didn't want us to be able to muscle our way through it.
Fair.
I thought it was great training.
It sounds like it's really good training. That's the reality is this job that we do is not planned. It's something we going along having a pretty mundane day and then something goes crazy. So that to me seems like very realistic or as realistic as you can make it for your trainees.
So let me ask you this, because this is where I don't know. So what area did you end up getting sent to from the academy?
Yeah, so my initial assignment was Troop D, which is the Augusta Barracks, ironically enough, close to home.
Oh, nice.
Waldo County. So although it was close to where I grew up, it was kind of like way east of any area that I knew. So it was rural. I was basically like a rural deputy.
Yeah.
Which I didn't know at the time, kind of what troops did what. Obviously, some troops encompass the interstates. Other troops have more of a rural footprint. Yeah, I got sent to Waldo County and I think I was responsible for 6 towns at a time, which looking back, it's kind of interesting, because I had turned 22 the December of, we graduated in September of 16. I turned 22 that December. So I had spent on my FTO and then some drastic time until at a 21-year-old age, which is incredibly insane to me nowadays as I sit back and I supervise 21-year-olds.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, right.
So when you said you had 6 towns, it's just you, or that was the way we divide everything up here is you have zones. So I'm not going to have a whole town in my zone. So is it just you, or is there other troopers in that area as well?
Yeah, so we refer to it as call sharing. So we would call share the sheriff's office for 2 weeks out of the month. We would have, zones. You could refer to them as zones. So they would break the county into 3 zones. So 2 zones would be owned by the sheriff's office, and then 1 zone would be owned by state police. And then every 2 weeks we would rotate, and we'd rotate through through zones 1, 2, 3.
Oh,
We would operate with one trooper as a primary and then a secondary trooper basically as like the backup unit. And that would also rotate. So one night you would take all the calls for service, you would serve all the paperwork, you would do all the follow-up. And then the next day you would be your secondary day where your partner would take all the calls, do exactly what you did the night before.
so you guys
and
were
if
not
you-
just backing up the county. You guys were actually assigned
Well-
your own zone where you took all the calls primary.
Yeah, we took all the calls, everything a deputy would do, and to include paperwork, paper service, right? We're serving subpoenas, protection orders, arms relinquishments, same thing the deputies are doing, which looking back, it's interesting because, I have a really good relationship with the sheriff's office over there.
Right.
A lot of the deputies are now of rank at the sheriff's office. And it's kind of cool to see as we progress through our law enforcement careers, we kind of just started out as deputies and troopers in the same county.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
Yeah.
That is cool. Very different here in Florida. We have troopers, but the training aspect sounds similar to what our Florida Highway Patrol, our troopers go through. But then when it comes to what they do, when it comes to how the work is divided up, troopers only basically service the highways. They do crashes, DUIs, traffic stuff. They're not going to respond to your house if you call 911. That's just not their thing. Most of them wouldn't even know what to do if it couldn't fit on a ticket.
Fair enough.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's the negative side of just having highway patrol, right? We have a more well-rounded policing mentality, I think, in Maine, where unless you're assigned to like Troop G or Troop I, which are interstate patrols only, you're really going to have the same exact job as a deputy does or a municipal guy.
I see. Yep. Interesting.
Now, when you left training, you weren't married yet, correct?
No, I was single. I was actually still living with my parents. I graduated the State Police Academy, and my lieutenant had called me right after graduation and gave me the option of 2 towns to live in. And I had to move basically in 2 weeks before my field training started. So I had to move very fast, and I didn't know anyone in that, that part of the state, if you will. And it was a little stressful time. I was trying to piece it all together, and still, I'm a graduated Maine State Trooper that doesn't know how to sign on with the radio. How am I going to find a place to live in 2 weeks? Ultimately, I found a place. I rented an apartment by myself. My lieutenant knew someone that had a place available, and that's where I went. I went. It worked out well because it was in Kennebec County, but it bordered my patrol. So I was able to. We had on-call hours when I first started. We kind of got away from those as an agency. When I started, we would have Troop A still, Southern Field Troop, your hometown still has them tied, but the rest of the state, other than Troop F, is out of the on-call. Majority of our agency works 12s now.
That's what I was screaming. So, Mo, just so you know what an on-call is, you would work 8 hours, but be on call for 4. So you might get home at midnight, 1 o'clock, go to bed, take your uniform off. You might get called back out at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, whatever it is. And you're primary, so they will call you till you wake your ass up. And because it's Maine, you might get a call, and that call takes you an hour and a half to get to. Yeah, correct.
Yeah, it's interesting because like where Ty Martin went, his like Troop A, and obviously Ty can hit on this more than I can, but like the geography, because what was it? You had 2 towns that you were responsible for, Ty?
We covered all of York County, but we also had the interstate.
Okay, yeah. So just different.
We did share. Yeah,
we didn't have the interstate really, or at least I didn't from where I live. And snowstorm nights were always the worst, right? Because like we'd get home you had an option. You could go home at midnight, 1 or 2 a.m., and then you were on call till, for our troop, it was 4 a.m. So if you went home at midnight, you would have 4 hours of on call, which on a snowstorm night, you just knew you're better off just staying out. And a lot of guys opted to do that, but it was an interesting, coming from no law enforcement experience, I'm kind of seeing how that was and ultimately how we managed that. My supervisors managed that.
I can't even wrap my head around responding to a call in a snowstorm. I'd be like, it's snowing. I can't go.
Yeah, there's a lot of snow.
It's cold.
Have you ever been here before, Mo?
I have. I actually used to have a timeshare in Maine. What? So I have been up there a couple times, and when I've come, it's in December, and it was very cold.
Yeah, you're definitely getting a full Maine event then. That's crazy.
I was like,
this is more about the water, though.
Up here.
I don't know that she got the full northern Maine, 8-10 feet of snow Maine.
Yeah. Like Old Orchard Beach really isn't like
Correct.
typical Maine.
Yeah.
No, I was like Bar Harbor and like in
Yeah.
that area.
Yeah.
So
It's a nice area.
but it was cold enough that I knew that I couldn't be a cop up there. There was no sense in me even applying.
Yeah, I got to tell you, I'm a huge fan of Florida, and in winter times here definitely make me rethink what I'm doing.
Yeah. And it doesn't make any sense. It's like it's 9 degrees outside and there's feet of snow all over the ground and people still want to act like fools. And I'm like, I actually used to get more angry. I'm like, what is wrong with you?
Yeah.
I was going to say, when you say a snowstorm night, people aren't home just chilling out.
Yeah, you would think that. So the problem is that people just aimlessly like drive throughout the night for no reason. Like you have your commuter traffic where people, drive to back and forth to work and whatnot. The majority of those people just like, where are you headed tonight? And they're like, oh, I just wanted to see how much snow is out here on the roads. And it's like, okay.
Look out your window.
Yeah. It's just crazy, but you know how law enforcement is. It's it's a front row seat to a lot of strange decision making. So,
but also,
I guess it's this. Go ahead.
Also, Mo, snowstorm night means that you are stuck at home, and sometimes that's not good for people. So they start drinking that Allen's Coffee Brandy, which is the Maine Four Loko. Florida was Four Loko. Maine is Allen's Coffee Brandy, and they start scrapping. Correct.
Fair enough.
Terrible.
Fair enough. That's like Florida in hurricane season. People are just driving around in their car in the middle of a hurricane to see what's going on.
Yep.
And then they're crammed in the house together with no air conditioning because the power's gone out, drinking warm Bud Light. There it is.
You said it.
That'll get you. So let me ask you this. So I'm trying to keep 2 trains of thought because I want to ask you about you developing a relationship, getting married while also being a trooper. But let me table that for a second. 22 years old, never been in law enforcement. His first real career job is what I'm gathering here. You're all alone. That's the other thing, Mo. It's not like you have backup 20 minutes away. Sometimes it's 2-3 hours away. Do you have any memorable calls from that? We'll just say the first year where you're like, it's all me and this could go bad. But do you have any calls like that you can recall? Or it doesn't have to be like that. Just anything that you're like, holy shit.
Yeah. So one of my first calls actually off FTO, I remember quite vividly. Was a pretty bad domestic that we had. And when I tell you guys, I graduated FTO on a Thursday, and Saturday night I was by myself going to this call. So it's your typical DV, right? We get a 911 hang up is how the call originates. Me and my partner pulling in the driveway. I got paired, my patrol partner initially was a senior trooper. So it worked out very well. They obviously did that for a reason because I was so green and so young. Yeah. But yeah, we get to the residence and grandmother ends up coming out, and unbeknownst to me, like the grandmother was the one who called because her granddaughter and the granddaughter's boyfriend were in a full on fight. So able to, get in the trailer and ultimately interview granddaughter and her boyfriend. And she was very, very, very battered. And that was the point for me. I'm standing in the hallway of the residence, and I'm like, where am I right now? It's like 2 a.m. I am, brand new to this, and I have no idea really what to do. Who's going to jail? Who's not going to jail? Do I need to call an ambulance? Where are we at with priorities of work? And I think that was my big, like, okay, this is like a serious job and big decisions need to be made. And it's like oftentimes only us that are there to make the peace. And I think back on that call often. I think about that when I'm having a rough day and I remember why I'm doing what we do. And that's the big picture, right? Because in the middle of the night, grandmother needed a voice for reason, but needed help for her granddaughter. And that's ultimately what we're able to provide for them.
And they called you, bro.
Yeah. They called 911. Yeah. They called.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
they got you. And that's what I'm saying. That's why, to me, that's crazy at 22.
Yeah, it was. It is. Yeah. And I'll never forget. It was a cold, freezing rain night. Rain was blowing in sideways. It's like Halloween time up here, Mo, is like when the seasons really start to change, like that late October, early November. And it was cold. It was miserable. And you just look back on those and you go, man, like, what if I wasn't there? Who else would have had this call, or who else would have been the one responding? So.
That's interesting. I know when I started, I was 23, and that saying, I feel like you do have that epiphany usually that is like, and it's a divergent call usually that makes you decide, do I want to keep doing this, or is this something I don't want to do anymore?
Yeah. That's sure.
Shit's dangerous. How about the first time you had to like use force to arrest somebody? That to me was my like, this shit's dangerous. if I lose, this could be my last time.
Yep. Yeah, that's a good question. I do remember my first time using force was with a drunk driver. And it wasn't in the middle of the night. It was the weirdest thing. It was on a Sunday in the middle of the day. We got a call of a guy who was passed out in the parking lot of a convenience store.
Sunday.
I know. Oh, went there. I mean, the guy obviously was clearly intoxicated. I think he denied field sobriety, or I don't remember the particulars, but yeah, it was that aha moment where I think it was the springtime. It was the following springtime. So I had that DV call, and then roll that into the springtime is when this happened, and that was. Yeah, I was tested straight up. I mean, there's no other way to say it. I told him he was going to jail, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm not going to jail." And I'm like, "Okay." And it was right at shift change too. That was the best part. It's my call. I'm going to own it. It's going to stay with me. But there's really no one to come and like give me a hand with it. It's going to be me. And you rely on that training that Ty and I mentioned. You know, I felt comfortable. I felt confident, but you need to remain confident in that skill set, and you have to remain humble and not to portray that as like an egotistical, I'm going to throttle this guy if things go sideways. Obviously, like, we're always prepared to do that if need, but if he's going to go compliant, then we're all set here. And I'll be the first one to pat you on the back and say, "Hey, I appreciate you being decent with me." But that wasn't the case with him. You know, I think if I remember correctly, I think he was high on like some sort of drug. I think that was like PCP maybe, or some sort of methamphetamine, but it wasn't good. He trashed my cruiser and tried kicking the windshield out. We transport in the front, Mo. I don't know if that's different than Florida, but the guy no cages. The guys go right beside us in the passenger seat, and that's
I still hate that, by the way.
Yeah.
I know you don't know anything else. Tyler doesn't know any other way to do it, but I realized very quickly
for transporting that way.
Yeah, that's a good question. I really don't know. I have yet to get a real concise answer on that. I try not to ask questions that I don't really have an impact on changing, but at the end of the day, for me, to play devil's advocate to the passenger transport is I've grown comfortable with having someone sitting beside me because I have full control over them. I can see what they're doing, if they're acting, if they're not, oh, God forbid they go unconscious. I can see them. I can, feel their presence beside me. So you kind of, once you put a certain amount of people in your passenger seat in handcuffs, and you also, it really makes you thorough with your searches, because instead of just jamming them in the back and saying, "All right, dude, we're going to jail." Well, no, if you don't do a good search, then this guy's going to be sitting beside you for 45 minutes while you drive to the jail. You don't want to get stabbed in the neck with a knife. You better do a good search. And that's my mindset, right? Like, it's your safety. No one else is going to get hurt other than you driving your cruiser down the road. So I see it both ways. It would be nice to have a cage or any set of tools, right? We talk about tools all the time. I would consider a cage like an extra tool for us.
It is.
But yeah, we do partner with the sheriff's office when we have someone that just won't stop kicking and screaming. We put them in the sheriff's office or local PD cruiser, and they'll provide a transport for us. We don't usually do that all that often, but I can count on one hand how many times I've had to do that in my time with law enforcement.
Yeah, Mo,
I've transported with passenger transports, but only when I was in undercover capacity, and usually my partner would be in the back seat behind him. So that gave me some sense of comfort.
A trooper, you're solo, and I could tell you when I transitioned to a trooper, I didn't realize I used the cage in my car as a separation tool, interviewing tool, because I would just separate parties. But hey, you're not in handcuffs. Just go in here. I need a minute, and I knew that they were secure, right? Then you become a trooper and you have 2 or 3 people that you're trying to figure out. You had to like space them out, sit them in a way that you could see them. It makes a huge difference. Yeah. And then on top of that, what Tyler's saying, so in Hillsborough, the jail is like 20 minutes away. I mean, depends on where you are. Not much longer than that. In Maine, I had to drive with somebody in a spit mask because she kept trying to spit on me. My hand holding her like this so she would stop trying to thrash around. And I'm driving for like an hour. And I'm like, the whole time, just and I'm just like, oh my God, like, just calm down. But to your point, I also transported many people. I mean, I wasn't a trooper very long. Transported many people that were just like, hey, so, what are you doing? Where are you from? You're not from around here. They just talk to you like it's no big deal.
Yeah. And I think too, to chime in on that, Ty, is, as a supervisor in today's world, it's all about how you treat people. And I get that there are certain people who are going to be defiant and rude and aggressive. regardless of how you treat them. But I will tell you that putting people in my passenger seat, I've done it quite a few times. And if you're rude and treat people like crap, that is
Yep.
just going to come full circle for you. And you are going to have to, it's going to be a difficult ride to jail. So what I tell my new fellows, like, guys, listen, like, we're going to be bringing this person to jail, like regardless of any emotional attachment in this call, like an OUI involving children or whatnot, like we're still going to treat people with respect and dignity. And that oftentimes will get us out of, a use of force from a seated position in the cruiser. Because these people at the end of the day, like they might hate the image of a police officer, but they might not hate Tyler Harrington as a person. And if I can have that personal touch with people 40 minutes or an hour driving jail, that's really gonna work in our favor. And I can't stress that enough in today's policing style, like treating people the right way for the right reasons. It's a big deal.
I can't tell you how happy it makes me happy to hear you say that. It's like, because I knew you as a young one who knew nothing.
I'm
not saying it had anything to do with me. I love that's Big Sarge talking right there. I love it.
That is, but that's the thing that a lot of especially the new ones that he's now mentoring up, they need to hear, because like when I'm training, that's the thing that I try to drive home. I can teach you how to shoot. I can teach you how to do DT, but talking to people is what we do 99% of our time when we're out there. And if you talk to people with some kind of sense, typically you're going to be okay. There's the outliers that, like you said, they're going to fight no matter who shows up. Yep. But most people are reasonable, even if you have to take them to jail.
Yeah, 100%. I used to carry a pack of cigarettes in my car. I don't now because I don't arrest a lot of people, just because I'm supervising young whippersnappers who want to like do everything and then some. But I used to religiously carry a pack of cigarettes in my car. And I'll tell you now, if I could feed someone a cigarette and calm them down and get them water or a smoke before they go to jail, because they know they're not going to have them for at least, till they see a judge, maybe the next day, or if it's a holiday weekend, like a 3-day weekend, 100%. And I don't know, maybe that's a little unorthodox in some minds, but I do think you never know. I mean, Maine's a small state, right? Like you're going to deal with these people oftentimes. And I can tell you how many times I've arrested someone for, a possession charge and then used them in a case 2, 3, 4, or 6 months down the road because I know that they're affiliated with the guy that lives next door. And I've never been told, I've never had the door shut in my face on someone that I've arrested when I go to them asking for help on a case. They're like, it's Ty, come in. Like, I want to talk to you about this or whatever. And they're usually good to me. And I think there's a lot of ways to do this job. Some people are obviously like A personality, aggressive in your face all the time. And that's fine. That is a certain way to police. And we need to do that often, sometimes.
Time and place.
Yeah. Time and place. Right. And I think that, there's a couple of different ways to do this job. And just because that's the way I did things doesn't mean that everyone in my crew needs to do that. I will recommend that they try and start that way. And if it doesn't go that way, then that's fine. And we're going to be trained and have the knowledge, skills, and ability to take care of business. And that's not responsibility.
So I want to touch on a couple things because I knew it, Tyler. I knew it, bro. We're crushing it, and I appreciate it. So your path leading up to sergeant, what did that look like for you as far as training? What am I trying to say? Mentor, like, hey, I want to be a sergeant. Bring me up to that.
Yeah, it really all started with the FTO. Like, I was assigned as a field training officer pretty early on. My lieutenant was looking for volunteers to train one of the new guys. And again, one of those moments in my life where I was like, yeah, I'll take that on. Like, let's do it. And I did. And I jumped, head first into that training evolution for that new trooper. And I love it. That's my passion, is training and mentoring. And I took that and I really, I talk to that trooper all the time, check in with him often. And there's still to this day, a lot of things that I showed him as a Maine State Trooper that he does today. And some good, some bad, right? Like we all have the good.
Yeah.
But so I think for me, that was like that moment because one thing that we didn't do for a long time was after the field training process and you got on your own, we didn't really have like a review, an FTO review, if you will. There wasn't like a survey monkey that went around asking how your FTO process was. And I was a little keen on that. Like, why don't we do that? We should do that. And again, I'm still a new trooper. Like, I'm not asking questions. I'm just asking for more stuff to do, more work.
Yeah.
So I had a sit down moment over coffee with that trooper. And I'm like, listen, you're done. You're on your own. You don't have to have this conversation with me, but I want to know the good, bad, the ugly, and everything that I did well for you and where I steered you wrong. And we probably had a 2.5 hour conversation at a Dunkin' Donuts. And I left that conversation and I'm like, next time I get a trainee, I'm going to do these things differently.
Yeah.
It was a great conversation, a mature conversation. So that was really the beginning of, man, I kind of like this mentorship teaching atmosphere. I like being the one that guys look at to help problem solve. And again, I don't have the answers and never claim to. And believe me, if there's a better way to do it, I'm all ears. And I tell my guys that all the time. But as a brand new young field training officer, I really took that opportunity to figure out, am I gonna be a leader or am I gonna like not be a formal leader? And do I want to go like a different route, like criminal investigation, like or major crimes unit, and like be a detective, which is great either way. My next trainee it was kind of funny how I learned, what motivates people and passions, and my style of leadership and mentorship has to be changed based on who you're training. And so my second guy that I got, my new trooper, he came with some experience, and that required a different level of training from this brand new trooper. Really, I still was new at the time. So in the beginning, I set the tone. I said, listen, you've been in law enforcement before. You have more time on the road than I do. I'm probably not going to teach you a ton more of how to police than what you've been doing. But what I can teach you is the Maine State Police way and what your supervisor and what your partners are going to expect of you. And really, since we had that conversation early on, I'm so happy I had that conversation day 2 instead of day 22, because that really set the tone for our training. And, it kind of went from, oh, what's my FTO going to make me do? What's this like state police way he's talking to? He had the reins. I was in the passenger seat. And barring, a something criminal or something policy violation, I was really just playing a backup unit. And that's the relationship I still have with him today.
Yeah.
Call it an FTO, call it a whatever you want, but I was simply a backup unit to that trooper. And we trained hard. We brought a lot of good cases to the district attorney's offices and stuff, a lot of good cars. And looking back, that's kind of when I started to turn that page of, okay, what does this mean for me? And is it normal to like these things, right? Like I have mentors throughout this agency, and I would rely on them. Like, hey, is it normal to like want to spend time investing my time to make someone more well-rounded? And that was kind of, I read a lot of books. I like, there's a lot of public speakers that I listen to, and it's one of those things I often come back to is, what's my purpose, right? What's my purpose here in the state police? Is it to arrest people and take them to jail? Like, awesome. Then I'll do that to the best of my ability. Is it to train people, mentor people, make sure they're kept out of liability, kept out of lawsuits? Maybe, right? And early on, I didn't know that. I didn't know that's what I was kind of setting the path to do.
Yeah.
And that was it for me. That was like that aha moment. I had I ended up training 9 new troopers total in my 9 years before I promoted to corporal, and very proud of that work. That's important work. And I say this often, there's no better position in law enforcement than training new officers. If we're not taking that serious, then what's it all for, right? You could be the best OUI guy in the country and have 1,000 arrests and be the best report writer. But if you don't train your new personnel well, it is just going to be the future of the agency. And that's the difficult part that some people struggle with. They don't see the big picture on those things.
Yeah.
And that was ultimately it was an easy decision for me because the opportunity came up for a corporal's position, which would be, we have troopers, corporals, sergeants, and then lieutenants. That's the chain of command for us on the road. So when the opportunity presented itself for corporal, I was able to go in there and hold my head high and do a good interview. And my passion is just that, right? It's a big deal to want to get up every day, come out here and make sure the job and the mission is pushed forward. And when we do that well and do that safely, there's no better feeling. And it bleeds true today. That's how I feel about it sitting here talking to you guys.
Yeah. Mo, anything on that? Mo's an instructor, so I'm assuming she agrees.
No, I absolutely agree. And I think that's why I became an instructor, because I always thought that I want people to know how to do this job safe, but how can we do it more effectively and communicate with people versus fighting people and things like that? That's what we talked about a lot.
Yes, we did.
So that was one of the things that I found important as well. Now, once you got promoted to corporal and you seem to have a passion for this teaching training part, is there an opportunity for you guys to go to the academy and teach, or how does that, and if so, is that something you have done or would consider doing?
Yeah. So ironically enough, before I promoted to corporal, I was asked by one of the instructors who led a portion of the program if I was interested in becoming an instructor at the academy for new troopers. And time and place, right? It just, when he had initially asked, it wasn't the perfect time for me, so I kind of brushed it
Got
off.
it.
And then that led to me seeking out the opportunity again. And I knew you know, when I had all my ducks in a row and I wasn't busy with field training and I wasn't busy with a million other things, because I've always been the type to, if I can't do it well, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to half
Understood.
pass anything. I really want to dedicate my full knowledge and skill set to whatever the opportunity is. And that's where I was with teaching at the academy, and started teaching, I want to say 2019, 2018, just a couple of select courses, a lot of it to do with motor vehicle stops, traffic work. I'm not like an OUI instructor or a DT instructor. I'm simply kind of like in those pinches, if people need someone to do a quick hot wash, lesson on motor vehicle stops, or where to safely place an arrestee for an interview in your cruiser, or whatnot, best practice. And that's where I jumped in on that opportunity at the academy. And ultimately, like, that's been an extreme passion of mine. I've really tried to invest my time and effort to get up there as much as possible, put eyes on the new trainees. And it's important to have that face-to-face time with guys that are coming out of the academy, because not only are you
Mhm.
getting, you're sharpening your sword and teaching them a thing or two, but they're also networking with you, right? I'm seeing
Mhm.
new guys that aren't coming to my troop, that are going to Troop F, which would be like Aroostook County. And, I always,
Even more rural.
even more rural, right? And I hand out my telephone number to every class I go into, and I tell them, this is the shift I work. My phone is up
Yeah.
for you guys 24/7. And please take the opportunity, if you need, to call me. And it's interesting to hear, that the guys that call me and gals in the middle of the night and want to know, hey, I'm running into this. What do you think? Or, kind of what's my next step here? So
Right.
yeah, it's been a good opportunity for me, and just continue to do that well, and stay relevant with case law and
Uh-huh.
court rulings, and where are we headed in the next 10 years. It's tough to play that, but where do we look at for the big picture, and see kind of where do you see yourself in 10 years from now, and in this law enforcement career, and what's that going to look like?
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this: when you went to sergeant, did Maine State Police have any like leadership courses, or what was? Were you a corporal one day and a sergeant the next day, or what did that look like for you?
No, I was a corporal for just over a year. So I made corporal. I worked under a great sergeant. That sergeant ultimately had the opportunity to go to days. So my lieutenant called me, probably, like I said, like a year as a corporal, and had said, "Hey, listen, the sergeant's going to a different shift. Do you have any interest taking over at the helm?" Really, we refer to it as like an acting sergeant. And initially I'm like, "Oh yeah, like absolutely I want to do this." And then I hang up the phone and I go, "Oh fuck, like what did I just like, yeah, I just asked for more stuff to do, but like I don't know what that means. Like I got to do the schedule, I got to do the timesheets, I got to do the everyone's got trainings, like everyone's got a specialty, like holy smokes, like where am I at with it?" And you got to slow it down, break it down to a small bite-sized pieces, and that's what I did. And
Right.
I was the acting sergeant of my crew for probably 6 months before they filled my vacant sergeant's position, fortunately with me. And that was a time where, it was kind of, you wanted to make the best decisions with the best information you have, but you also can't be afraid to make mistakes, right? It's okay to make,
Yeah.
Right.
and just make sure that those mistakes are in good faith and have the best interest of the agency and the mission as you make them. And that was kind of my guiding light. I made sergeant in that process. beat out some very qualified people. And no one was more surprised than me when getting that phone call, letting me know that I was selected. Still the youngest guy in the process. I'm never in a million years I think, hey, like they're going to take a chance on me to come out here and do this, work overnights and supervise 21-year-old, guys and gals. But here we are, and loving every minute of it. It was the best decision I ever made, but was to take on that.
Now, fuck that, Tyler. I'll say it for you. You definitely deserved it, and you beat them fuckers because you have a good demeanor, you have the knowledge, and you enjoy training. So that's what you need to be a good sergeant. So I'll say it for you. You don't have to say it. And I am biased because I know what your training was and who your group was. And you are right. I think everybody in our training class, with the exception of me, they've all pretty much promoted in one way or the other. TAC commander, detectives, all that kind of shit. So it was a good group. It was small but powerful, Mo. Small but powerful.
That's awesome.
We had some great moments, and I think back, even Ty Martin, right? Like he left the agency, which that's totally, I would support that decision. 6 weeks to Sunday for the betterment.
You're one of the few, Tyler. You're one of the few. Not everybody like that. Yeah. It is what it is.
It is.
I told you about that offline.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter.
But the phone, luckily he still has the same number. I had it saved in my phone with Office Ty Martin. It's that same, I know he's not here with us like in the agency anymore, but it's still that brotherhood, right? We went through all this shit together. 100%. We did everything. We all sweat in the 90-degree heat in the middle of July in 2016. That's important. That's important to me, at least. I think others might have a different opinion, but I don't care.
Yeah, right.
He's doing construction in North Carolina right now. It's still, he earned the title of a Maine State Trooper, and that is not an easy task.
Doesn't sound like
I will say that's very true. When you're done with that training, you feel like you fucking earned it. I will tell you that for sure. You're like, I earned this motherfucker.
That's awesome. I have a question.
Yeah.
So you're at sergeant now. How long have you been? You said you started, I think, in 2016, but how many years in? And then where ultimately do you want to land before you leave? What's your ultimate goal if all the stars aligned?
Yeah, so that's a good question. People ask me that all the time, and I know it's cliche to say, I really don't have a huge plan. I try to take every day and conquer the day. I know that sounds very, very cliche, but at the end of the day, for me, right, this is my priority right now.
Right.
Is my guys sign on, we work hard for our 12-hour shift, and all my guys sign off. And when they go home, they're well taken care of, their families are well taken care of, and ultimately influence and impact that I can have on those troopers is what I dedicate my time and effort to do. And it does consume me, right? I'm a people person through and through, care about when something is wrong or something may not be going as planned with a trooper. Right. So I would say, Mo, to answer that question in a roundabout way, I'm open to whatever, right? If someone were to call me tomorrow and say, hey, I got this awesome position for you somewhere other than what you're doing right now, I want you to look at it, might consider it. I don't want to have a plan concrete, because what happens is when that doesn't happen, then you kind of get crushed, right? And I don't think, I have so much to be thankful for, right? Like I got an awesome crew of guys. I work for an awesome lieutenant. Like we do awesome work every night. Like I'm proud of what we do, and I'm proud of the agency is the big thing.
Yeah.
Big picture is, I try to be a forward thinker, still have that youngness to me a little bit, even though sometimes I feel not so young anymore. The big thing for me is what can I do in my position to launch us into the future? Because as you guys know, like Maine sometimes can be stuck a little bit behind the 8 ball a little bit with not just policing, but in everything, right? Fashion and trends and all the stuff that comes with it. But so my thing is like, what am I seeing? I got friends throughout the country that are police officers, and what's happening in their agencies, right? Like, is the recruitment thing, what's that look like? And we've done a great job recruiting, graduated 60 troopers in the last short few years, which is unheard of, as you know.
That's huge.
Said he had 8 in our class. So
yeah,
you can't retire 40 troopers and hire 8. It's a broken system. And luckily our command staff, with the support of legislatures and our governor, have been able to put us in a position where guys want to be Maine State Troopers. Like, we have a lot of people applying, and recruitment. I mean, I've been a recruiter basically since I became a state trooper, and it's been interesting to see the change of 9 years ago when you would ask someone, hey, why do you want to be a state trooper? they would give you an answer. And then today, when you ask someone, it's a different answer. It's just interesting to see like the trend. So I think in a roundabout way, Mo, I don't really know. I think if the opportunity presented itself for something that I could have a bigger impact on, then I would look at it. And right now I'm focused on one, my family, two, being my job as a state police sergeant, which is a huge title. It holds extreme weight, and that's a big deal. And ultimately, I don't know what my plan is. I think it's all part of God's plan. Honestly, I try to do the best I can with what I have. You don't go to war with what you wish you had. You go to war with what you have, and I'm a firm believer of that. So yeah,
he'll be the lieutenant of training. Don't worry about that. So I'll say it for you, Tyler. Don't worry about it. You got the passion, bro. You got the passion. A couple things, and then I want to get back to the other part. Did you ever do any of because during the Secret Service time, we used pretty much every trooper that has ever existed in the state of Maine for the campaign stuff. Did you ever get pulled to do any of those details?
Yeah. So ironically enough, I was still on the TAC team when that happened. So we were paired up with like a couple of QRFs for that detail that came up to Northern Maine. And yeah, it was great. Great opportunity. Like not everyone has the opportunity to, again, network with different agencies like we did that day, but
yeah,
it is awesome. It's so cool. And when not just, VPs or presidents come here, but certain dignitaries too. I mean, Maine's vacation land, and you never know who's going to be coming in to stay in Bar Harbor or Old Ocean Beach for a weekend. And it's awesome. I mean, it's an awesome opportunity for us as an agency.
Damn it, Tyler. I got so caught up on your sergeant stuff. We haven't had any TAC guys on this show. We got about 20 more minutes, but what was that like? Are you allowed to still be on the TAC team now that you're a sergeant or no?
So you can. So we have a full-time, just about 12 to 13 full-time guys now, and those guys are all specialists. So a couple of years ago, 2022-ish timeframe, they awarded us 10 to 12 specialist positions. And so the guys who hold rank are not full-time guys on the team, if that makes sense. So those guys like either are working the road as sergeants or corporals, or are assigned different positions throughout operations in the agency.
So are you still on the TAC team, just not a specialist?
No, I got done, what would have been 2023. I did my 3 years, and it's a great opportunity, right? We get a lot of calls. We averaged, 92 calls a year. And after 3 years of doing it with a young family, for me, I just, like I told you guys at the beginning of the podcast, when I dedicate myself to something, I want to do it to the best of my ability and 100%. And was being pulled a lot of different ways at the time. And, it's tough. You get a wife and kids at home, and you're on call often, all the time, 24/7, 365. And there's a lot of missed nights, holidays, weekends, on top of my day job, which was still patrol.
Right.
So it was a lot. It was like drinking from a fire hose at times. Like you just got to look, it's a mature conversation. You look yourself in the mirror and go, am I still doing this for the right reasons? What am I doing this for? Had a good conversation with my wife, who was in full support of whatever I wanted to do. And yeah, it was a quick 3 years for me. A lot of calls, a lot of great training, a lot of great relationships I built with guys that I still have today. But yeah, I mean, I don't regret anything. I try to live by standing by all these decisions that are made, and it's good to see.
Oh, for sure. You mentioned specialists. A lot of SWAT teams don't. I think Maine, in my opinion, is a little unique. Can you talk about some of those specialties? Because my understanding is you're all trained. Basically, you could all be snipers, you could all be breachers, assaulters, whatever it is. But could you talk a little bit on that just for the next minute or two?
Yeah. So the team is made up of, so we have 2 full-time K9 guys, 2 full-time medics, and then everyone else has like a subspecialty. So some might be a breacher, some might be a sniper. We have drone pilots now. Some guys are assigned. Oh. Yeah, which is kind of a new 2024-ish to SWAT is the drones. But yeah, it's just like a lot of subspecialties within the team. And ultimately there's a lot of work to be done. And unless you divvy that work up, it's going to be too much. And for years, I mean, that's a big state, as Ty Martin knows. Like, Maine's huge, and there's only one Maine State Police SWAT team. We have a couple regional teams throughout the state who are fine. They do great work, but like, we're the only ones versed in hostage rescue. We're the only ones that are able to manage an 18-hour barricade with gas and munitions and drones and everything else that encompasses that. And it's a busy state, right? Like, there's a lot of high risk calls that happen. A lot of people don't know about that.
I didn't know that until we started doing the podcast and talking to some of the guys that were up there. I had no idea how busy.
Yeah, it is, and it's helped. Can't speak on how much it's helped in today's world, but I know having 10 dudes who are full time, that's all they do, definitely, from my experience, it's alleviate a lot of the work that has to be done. But still, I mean, if there's a big barricade like that requires the full team, I mean, there's 23 dudes that are all going. You know, you can't manage a barricade with 11 guys. It's just not the way it works.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's great, and all our specialties are great. Like we have. Like the team's great. I'm biased. Obviously, I can't give a straight answer with specialties in the state police, but you know, we got a lot of water in the state, and our underwater recovery team does a ton of work. That's something I've recently learned as I have a member in my section that is on the dive team. And they're everywhere. Like a lobsterman goes overboard and they're working with the Coast Guard for 2 straight weeks trying to find his body to bring closure to the family. I mean, it's just incredible work. Canine work is obviously super important too. So we get a lot of canine units, canine teams throughout the state. I also have one of those in my crew, and he's great. You know, he's a happy-go-lucky guy and trains hard and is always there when you need him. So, but yeah, we have a lot. You know, we have like crash reconstructionists that's not a full-time gig. That's a subspecialty as well, where you would still work patrol, but you would be certified as a reconstructionist. So if someone, you know, you get in a motor vehicle crash that turns fatal or prosecution, we're going to require a reconstructionist to respond and do their investigation portion, which is kind of neat. I know, like when Ty Martin came up, we talked about like they had like an OUI team down in.
Yep.
We don't have that up here. Like we are the OUI team, right? Like we handle our own stuff from start to finish, but we do have DREs, which are drug recognition experts, who are.
What's an OUI?
DUI.
Okay.
Operating under the influence instead of driving under the influence.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yes, we do have DUI squads, which were phenomenal.
Yes. So as a trooper, you get a fatal crash, Mo. You work it as a trooper.
No.
You get a fatal and you get an OUI. That's you. And you get a burglary. That's you.
No. Burglary.
You're working all of it.
No to the DUIs.
No, but you're working it start to finish, Mo. Start to finish.
That's
you're going to do interviews, cross state. You are the detective. There is no local. Well, actually, I take that back. There are, but it's usually like more serious crimes than that, like robberies and stuff you still deal with. But if it's guns, murder, or violent assaults, then they'll step in. But usually, as a trooper, you cover all of it.
I find it very interesting.
Yeah, not to toot our own horns, but I think that is what makes us so well versed, right? Like we have the best major crimes detectives in New England, and that's because as Maine State Troopers, they do everything that, you know, from a camp burglary to a fatal motor vehicle crash involving a box truck, or it's all encompassing. And you only learn to interview and talk to people and do all those things by taking off the service, right? Like you can stop cars and arrest people for drunk driving or whatnot, but especially on the interstate where I supervise now, the chances of us dealing with those people is very slim ever again. But in road patrol, as you guys know, you're going to go to the same house in 2 more weeks and deal with the son who won't stop riding his dirt bike up and down the road.
100%.
So, and I think that's, you know, I know it sounds silly, but at the end of the day, like that's important work too, because one day you might need to rely on that kid or that mom to help you solve a burglary, or, you know, and that turns into a homicide investigation where, you know, there's only 3 agencies, Mo, in Maine that can investigate homicide. Well, Maine State Police being one of them, Bangor Police Department, and then Portland Police Department. So if you work or if you live anywhere outside of Portland or Bangor, the Maine State Police Major Crimes Unit takes the case. So each state, there's not, you know, obviously, like we're setting kind of record numbers here with crimes against people, but it is important to understand, like, we still have that footprint way up north when a homicide comes in, because it's a Maine State Police case. Interesting.
Very interesting the way that the agency works. And I will tell you, it's kind of interesting to hear you talk about some of the things that you guys have, because there's a lot of similarities. I forget quite often that I heard you say earlier, Maine being a vacation state, which I never really thought it being that way until, again, we started doing this, and then recognizing you guys have water and all some of the same things that we have to handle down here in Florida.
Yep.
But then the way you guys kind of lay things out's a little bit different, you know. Interesting.
Yeah, it's funny because for me, Florida is a vacation state. So, but yeah,
But Maine's Canada's Florida. So
yeah, exactly. But yeah, our
That's
population
funny.
increases so much in the summer. It's incredible.
it's wild. Florida doesn't have to, or Maine doesn't have to deal with alligators and all the bullshit in the swamps, but they
I'm not
That
a
also
is
have,
true.
snake guy, so like poisonous snakes, like I'm out completely. But
yeah.
on that, we'll work on
But
that.
We
imagine
have
being a
lots of,
dive team guy in the wintertime, having to dive in that freezing ass water of the ocean.
nah, I'm good.
Fuck that.
I'm good. I don't know though, diving with that or diving with the snakes, the invasive snakes that we have, because they're in the water too now.
Yeah,
So
that's why I'm not a dive guy. So never was.
I'm
I
good.
never had an interest.
Nope.
Awesome. All right, I want to wrap it up with a couple. Just my, and you answer, don't answer, Tyler. I'm not asking for personal, like details. So when I got into law enforcement, I was already married, already had kids. Oh, ended up marrying another cop. And so my question to you is, what was that like for you and your now wife, mother of your children? What was that conversation like? And what have you seen? 'Cause, I mean, so you were already a trooper. So obviously her eyes had to be wide open. This is my profession. This is what I do. Right. What was that like for you? And then what was that conversation like? Because I am interested in this aspect of law enforcement.
Yeah. So to back up a little bit, you had asked a question earlier that I totally spaced. So Rebecca and I actually met in college. So we had a couple classes together. It was one of those things where you kind of like inadvertently bump into one another. And then I left for the police academy and we kind of like lost, we didn't really have any FaceTime because we weren't in college together.
Oh.
When I graduated the RTT, the State Police Academy, a typical young guy trying to, freaking hang out with girls and do whatever, it is that young guys do
Huh?
nowadays. So yeah, I don't even know how, like a text message, I think I'd reached out to her and like rekindle things. I'm like, hey, like let's go on a date and whatnot. And so fortunately for me, I was able to convince her to like to date me. And then it ultimately turned into like a big commitment thing, which is awesome, like greatest thing I've ever done. But the big thing here is she doesn't come from a law enforcement family, right? She doesn't know
Yeah.
what Maine State Troopers do. She doesn't know all she all she knows is what goes on in the news, right? And she sees what
Yeah.
the trends and whatnot.
Yeah.
When we first got together, she knew, oh, you're a Maine State Trooper. Like, I think people have an opinion of what that is. Oh, you sit on the interstates and you rewrite tickets and whatever.
Yep.
And that at the time, that wasn't what I was doing. I was actually basically a sheriff's deputy doing the same,
Yeah.
going to calls, going to houses and whatnot. She's always been like a really good voice of reason for me because she keeps me grounded and she understands kind of where, oh, Ty's not good here. Ty needs to be, left alone or let him process calls or whatnot. So for me, it
Interesting.
was, initially having that open line of communication with her about, this is my job. These are the calls that I get to go to. And sometimes I'm going to have good days and sometimes I'm going to have bad days. But
Yeah.
through faith and through commitment and in marriage. And it's important to, in law enforcement, to have that person. And for people who aren't married, just make sure you have a person. It can be anyone. It could be your pastor or, your freaking dad or whoever. But for me, it's my wife 9 times out of 10, unless I want to keep her shielded with certain calls, which I still do,
Yeah.
obviously with a purpose. But yeah, no, I think she did have some moments of, oh wow, this is a big deal. You hear about these calls on the news, but now the guy who stays in my living room and sleeps in my bed is one of those people, right? He's a police officer and a trooper
Yeah.
and goes and wears this intimidating uniform with this intimidating Stetson and writes tickets and arrests people. And, I've always tried to, with her, make sure like that human side still shows true. And that's what keeps me grounded, right? Like when I needed
Yeah.
advice, like, hey, how does this look? Or what do you think this looks like? Someone who's not involved in law enforcement. And she's always given me concrete advice and when I need it the most, which I don't have all the answers, still learning this every day, but having her around is good. And that's what, marriage and commitment is about, and now it's raising children and making sure that he understands, listen, dad's job is a little bit different than most jobs. And when I pick you up at daycare in my uniform, I don't want kids to be scared. I want them to know, hey, it's the boy's dad in uniform picking up his son. So yeah.
It's a very mature answer, brother, that I'm still figuring out at 41 because I did not handle myself that way. What
Yeah.
you're talking about, the human aspect, taking the job and putting it aside. I've described it as almost split personality. There was the cop Tyler, and then the human Tyler, and the human Tyler went away for a little while and has crept back over time. But that's very interesting that you've already. I mean, I'm happy for it. You figured that out really quickly.
Yeah,
I have a question in regards to
yeah, of course.
your wife. You said she always knew, like, oh, this isn't a good time for him. Is that a conversation that you guys preemptively had, or was that she just was intuitive, or is this because she has a background? How did you guys land there? Because that's something that people don't in this job always land in.
Yeah, I think it's just, we've been together since it would have been 2017. So I think we have grown a lot as not just individuals, but as a couple. And
Mhm.
I think the big picture is in the beginning, she probably didn't know, right? She didn't know if I had a good day or a bad day because I would just come home and like we were trained to like nothing bothers us, like everything's fine. We're just gonna put on the pretend like split personality type stuff and just
Mhm.
pretend it didn't happen.
Yeah.
But that was great for the first, couple of years. And then I really needed to start talking about these calls and not just call
Yeah.
service, but hey, listen, I'm having this problem at work with this person, or I had this, this problem. Like, what do you think? And that gives her equity with my decision making too, because I'm not out here like I don't need like at the end of the day, like I could make a decision, but if I'm making a decision, I want it to be with the backing of someone who is a better decision maker than me. Like if I'm going to make a decision at work and in my personal life as well, like if I go to an accident, a bad crash on the interstate, before I open my mouth and say, oh yeah, like I think this happened, I'm probably going to consult with someone that knows crashes a little bit more than me. And that's the same. It's probably like a systematic way of looking at my personal life. She's been that, she's been just that for me. And obviously now we're new parents and that really changes things a lot. That's been a big year for me, a lot of growth
Yeah.
as a dad. And now realizing, I have my kiddo at home, and then when I go to work, I have my kiddos at work. And there's a
Mhm.
lot of young guys that I supervise, and I have that big brother mentality with a lot of them, and that's a lot of the skills and knowledge that I've learned being a dad at home. I'm able to use and show the compassion and the, really the humility when it comes to supervising that maybe some guys do and maybe some guys don't use. But I struggle with keeping the linear line between my home and my work. It's very much, right. Like the guys that I supervise are my family. And like I said earlier in the podcast, if they're not good, then I'm not good. Like I need to figure out how to within reason, right? Like there are going to be things
Right.
that are made that I can't control, but they're a part of my extended family. And I tell them that all the time. And I mean, I think that resonates a lot with especially young troopers because they want to know
Yeah.
in 2025, they want to know like, hey, listen, like that my Sarge has my back and he's going to go
Yeah.
battle with me regardless and has my best.
That means a lot.
Yeah.
That means a lot to new troopers, deputies, whatever. To feel that way. Go ahead, Bo.
No, I'm good. He answered it beautifully. Thank you.
Yeah. No, that was excellent.
That's one of those things that a lot of times law enforcement officers tend not to want to be vulnerable and truthful about. And I think that leads to a lot of the issues that we have in law enforcement. We've had our mental health miniseries where we talked about a lot of things, but the basis and the crux of it is that we don't talk to people. And we have somebody, usually we're married, either came in married, get married somewhere along the way, and we squander that opportunity to have that bond built with that person. And to be able to deal with the side of law enforcement that is awful.
Yeah, well said. I couldn't say it any better. I mean, you have to have that someone. I don't know who that is for people, but if it's me for one person, then that means I'm doing my job, and we're gonna figure out how to solve these issues that pop up. I love being a problem solver and making sure guys are taken care of. And as a new sergeant, at least I've only been doing this for 6 months now, but you're able to be that voice of reason at times, right? And make sure, you're giving good advice. If I don't have good advice, then I probably shouldn't be talking about how to do things, right? So it's important and it's a powerful position. And if you do it right, you're great. And the impact that you have on your troopers and the people you supervise is extraordinary. And you're not going to know the impact you have on those guys. But, when you retire and they come to your retirement party and look at you and say, hey, I just want to let you know, like, you did me a solid and I never forgot that. Like, that's what means a lot to me. Like, one day I'm not going to have this uniform on and I'm just going to be, gray haired Tyler mowing my lawn. And I want to be able to say, like, I did do.
Damn right.
In Florida playing golf.
There you go.
Come on.
You're welcome. You're welcome. All right. That's it. Tyler, well said, brother. I knew it was going to be a good one, and I'm very thankful. I'm going to probably have to have you on again, though, just so you know, because I got to talk about this tax stuff. I was so excited about the sergeant aspect because we don't have a lot of supervisors on the show, but I totally glossed over the fact that you were on the fucking TAC team, and I knew that, and you said it. But we'll have you back on, brother.
Yeah, be glad to jump back on anytime. So it was a pleasure. Good meeting you, Mo.
Mo, anything?
Thank you. No, thanks, man. It was awesome.